Leaders Convergence with may pangalan. Kasi Pastor, nakakagaya naman. I was actually asked to share a brief exhortation about our corporate culture, specifically yung stay hungry, no? And it's a privilege to be here. I bring greetings in behalf of the Victory Provincial Churches. Every day we've been traveling. Wednesday, nasa Clark kami. Thursday, Pampatangas. Friday, we had to judge. Ginudge namin yung mga paper. Okay, ng mga strategic planning ng mga estudyante natin sa School of Church Planting. And then we had a press meeting this morning. So, medyo hindi ko kami busy. But we want to be able to share with us today some of the things that we value as a movement, and that is specifically more on our corporate culture. No? Siguro marami sa inyo hindi nakakaalam. Okay, actually normally when I get introduced for all of these preachings or whatnot or trainings, that they always say, lagi akong binibenta that I'm single. No? And so, and if you're interested, my phone number is there. But normally pag mga ganito, we get invited to certain weddings. And then, I couldn't help but remember one of the weddings that I attended. No, medyo na-shock kasi ako dun sa culture ng wedding yun. As we're talking about culture for this afternoon. And in that wedding, of course, I didn't know na siyempre I had to attend as a pastor of Victory Santa Rosa during that time. When I got invited to that wedding, this couple was very close to me, so I had to attend along with our other friends. But I didn't know na may plano pala yung couple na to sa buhay ko na hindi ko alam. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with, di ba yung mga hagisan ng bouquet, tsaka hagisan nung garter. Familiar ba kayo doon? Yan, di ba? And so, now, of course, yung MC was not a Christian. So I didn't know they had a plan with that, pero hindi nila alam kung anong gagawin ng MC. So basically, this is what happened. Of course, syempre, may nakasalo na ng bouquet. And here I am, pinapili dun sa may place where, open space we're going to, yung ihahagis yung garter. And I just realized na totoo pala ang Red Sea. Kasi lahat ko ng mga kalalakihan nandun sa side, ako yung mag-isa dito. So nahati siya. So sabi ko, ako patay tayo, alam ko na to eh. Parang gano'n, parang naka-isolate na sila. So, true enough, nung hinagis ng groom yung garter, ako naman talaga papunta sa akin, gumanon ako, okay, wala nakahuli. So, but pretty obvious. No? So, syempre, garter, bouquet, you know what's going to happen. Now, what the couple didn't know was this. The couple didn't know was that part of the program was, ang gagawin pala ng MC, okay? The MC was not Christian, by the way. So, hindi nila din alam na pastor pala yung natawa. Okay? And so, kumbaga, ano na talaga kababalikan ng nasa isip nila, so to speak. So, siyempre, wala na magawa yung couple. So, sabi ng MC, okay, simple lang po gagawin na nakasalo ng bouquet at saka ng garter. Gagayahin nila po kung ano ang ginawa gagawin ng couple, ng bride and groom. So, kinakabahan ako dito. Pinagpawisan naman ng matindi. And so what happened was, ganito pala kung magkikis yung bride and groom somewhere, ganun din daw yung gagawin namin. So if you just imagine, di ba? Siyempre, naintindihan ko yung nag-organize, hindi naman niya alam na Christian, yung, or hindi niya alam na pastor, hindi niya alam yung how we work doon sa mga ganitong settings. So kaya, sige. So yung couple, medyo gay. So ginawa nila, yung una nilang ginawa is kiss, parang medyo kiss sa nose. Yan. So ako ngayon, I had this dilemma, no? There was a prevailing culture at that particular time about how things are done in weddings. I had a dilemma. My first dilemma was this. On one end of the spectrum, I was thinking, pagka nag-inarpi ako doon, bisita lang ako Pag nag-inarpi ako doon, pwede ko naman sabihin, excuse me, pastor ko ako, hindi ko ginagawa yan. Pwede ka naman gawin yan di ba? Pwede ka naman sabihin, excuse me, pastor ko ako, hindi ko gagawin yan. So pwede ako magwala doon, pwede bang iba na lang, di ba? Maglulupasay ako doon, humigahiga ako doon. Pwede ka naman gawin yan di ba? Now on the other side of the spectrum, Okay. Ngayon, siyempre, in fairness to the girl, maganda naman yung girl, no? Diba? In fairness, maganda naman yung girl. So, dito ako, guwapo mo So, in fairness, on the other side, nandito ako, and ang intindi ko naman, pag masyado naman akong gamho na game, baka ang tingin ng mga congregation ay yung mga umattend sa wedding na hindi Kristiyano, ang manyak naman ng pastor na doon. Can you imagine my dilemma? So I had to adjust to a specific culture that was prevailing that particular time in order for me para malaman nila na ay yung mga pastor pala, game naman pala. Okay? So if you're interested kung ano nangyari, mamaya ikukwento ko na lang sa inyo. Binitid pa yun. Pero buti na lang kung sanay ako bumalik sa hangin. Kaya wala akong nangyari. But, parang endgame. Panoorin nyo na lang mamaya. But here's the thing. Okay. But here's the thing. Culture is something that is very elusive. Okay. Culture is something that is very elusive. Now, it's something that is intangible. It is something na hindi mo pwedeng kontrahin kaagad-agad if you want to be able to achieve a specific result. In the same manner, okay, we have what we call in our church, what we call a culture that we have set and we have established. Diba? Pansin niyo sa victory, alam mo kung victory eh. Diba? Paano mo malalaman na nasa victory ka? Number 1, maingay. Okay? Pumunta ka lahat ng restaurant, maingay. Diba? This is small group. Pangalawa, mahilig kumain. Diba? Pangatlo, tinan mo yung mga miyembro, mukhang artistahin. This is a time culture, diba? Yan yun eh. Diba? Tinan mo yung tabi mo, mukha ba arte? Tapos ako tayo kung mga artistahin yung tabi mo. Siyempre, hindi na ako nagtataka. Mga artistahin din. Social pa yung pastor natin. And so, now, since we have a specific culture, okay? Alam mo kung victory pastor yung nag-preach. Diba? Marinig mo yung mga terms like, how will you know? How will you hear? Diba? Pag nag-preach yan, talagang sasabihin niya, ang tawag dito, even as the Lord is saying. Yung mga ganon. So there's a certain manner, no? Ito natin mga pastor na lagi probably the jeans tapos stripes na long sleeve tapos yung baka Onitsuka tiger or ano yung round ragged. So there's a certain culture that is said. Now I want us to understand it did not start out that way because we didn't start by countering or finding the existing culture. Culture was actually created. Now how do we define culture? Okay. Culture is defined as the intangible component that makes strategy and structure work. How many of you know that in this church we love to honor God and make disciples? Diba? However, we also need to have a strategy. Alam niyo sa totoo lang, napakadali pong mag-plant ng simbahan. We were there in the church planting class and sasabi na, napakadali pong mag-plant ng simbahan. Ang dali magpalago ng simbahan. Kaya we don't measure the growth in the church. Amen? What we measure are only two things. Ilan ang leaders natin, ilan ang victory groups. Every year, we will not set a target na 10,000 in attend. We will never set that target. Okay? Because the two most important things here is victory group leaders and the number of victory groups that we have. So madali mag-plan ng church, magpalago ng simbahan, mag-build ng church. Paano? Okay? Magpakain tayo sa Jollibee. Okay? Every week na service, magpakain tayo. I'm sure, dahil sa mga tao dyan. Magpa-buffet ka. Okay? Now, culture, having said that, culture is the intangible component that makes structure and strategy work. No matter how great your strategy is, if it's countercultural and it's offensive even to the community that you're doing, hindi mangyayari. Okay? The church will not actually grow. I remember there was this story of a man, a missionary, who went to a specific tribe. No? While they were preaching, medyo naaliwad-barat sila. Alam mo bakit? Kasi yung mga tribes people, umattend ng service nila nakahubad, topless. Pati mga babae, topless. So di ba kung ikaw, pag nag-preach ka, hindi ka mapagyan mag-eye contact. Kasi, gano'n ka lang, mag-preach ka, di ba? So ginawa nila, the following day, they distributed t-shirts. Strategy, di ba? Pag damitin natin, turuan natin mag-damit. Pero the following day, pagpasok nila, alam niyo pumasok, suot niya yung t-shirt, pero may butas na nandito. So gano'n pa rin. So, It's culture exclusive. Okay? Here we have what we call the everyday corporate culture. And the corporate culture is the everyday reality of our organizational life. Now, when I was asked to share about this, I realized this is talking about us as full-time pastors, but I believe this can be also applicable to us as victory group leaders. Ano na yung natin? Yung apat na yun. Okay? So that one is spiritual fervor, professional excellence, missional passion, and relational unity. I believe last week, Pastor Paolo shared about All In. Tama ba, Pastor Jerome? And today, we're going to talk about spiritual fervor, which is really about the slogan which says, stay hungry. Now, what is our role? What is the leader's role? Our role is to become culture engineers. Yeah. We are here like kumbaga, lagi natin natin yung illustration ng thermometer and the thermostat. A thermometer measures the temperature, but a thermostat dictates the temperature whether it's hot or cold. That's the same thing with culture. Now, as leaders, we need to learn this because we need to understand that we are culture engineers. Tinaman ka sabi mo, you're an engineer. You're an engineer. Okay? We are culture engineers. We are culture engineers. And number two, we are culture ambassadors. In other words, when you step out of this room, you don't cease to become a victory group leader. Let me say that again. When you step out of this room, we never cease to become a victory group leader. It's not a switch that we turn on or off. Okay? What do we mean by that? Ibig sabihin, pag nasa church tayo, kung ano tayo sa church, ganoon din tayo in our workplace. Kung ano tayo sa church, ganoon din tayo sa school. Kung ano tayo sa church, ganoon din tayo sa simbahan, sa bahay natin. Okay? We are culture, but we represent what the church is. And so hindi pwede, for example, na, Kristiyano ka pala, okay, kaya bakit ka laging late sa work? Okay, di ba? Tapos ang sagot mo, sorry, I'm not led by the Holy Spirit. Kaya di ako pumapasok. Hindi ko na-hear si God. So, yung pa-excuse mo, di ba? Ginamit mo pa yung church. And so, we as leaders, we are culture ambassadors. We represent this church. Whether you like it or not, we represent this church. So, I guess it's something that we should imbibe because there's a high cost to being a leader in our church. Okay, so I don't want to go deep onto that. Let's go to spiritual fervor, or what we call stay hungry. Romans chapter 12, verse 9 to 13. I'll be reading from the ESV. The Bible says, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves, never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, spiritual fervor, serving the Lord, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, share with the Lord's people who are in need, practice hospitality. Okay, so since this is a leaders meeting, I will violate a lot of preaching rules today. So okay lang ba yan? Kasi leaders meeting naman to. Now, we talk about the context of this. Itong Romans, I don't have to dwell on that. The book of Romans is the magnum opus of the Apostle Paul. And because this is the magnum opus of the Apostle Paul, it really talks about the inside transformation that happens inside a person, the effect of sin in the body, what Christ did for us, and then therefore, this is what happens. So we start here in chapter 12, ito na yung start mo parang therefore niya. Now that you understand what the gospel is, now that you understand what Christ has done for you, therefore, this is what we should be doing. Okay, and so, if we look here in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, in the NLT, any parang context by which these things were said. Okay, verse 1 says, and so dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. So familiar sa atin itong verse ito, ganda lang sa NLT, sabi sa NIV version, that I urge you brothers and sisters, in lieu of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. But in the NLT, ganda lang sinabi niya, why do you do it? Because of all that God has done for you. Why are we leaders in church? Because of all that God has done for you. Why are we doing one-to-ones, letting them go through the discipleship journey? Because of what Christ has done for you. Why do you still serve? Even if sometimes you get education, okay? Sometimes if you get corrected, why do you still lead victory groups? Even if many times you get offended? Why do we still pastor even if you criticize our preaching? Okay? Why we do it? Because what Christ has done for us. Our motivation for serving God in everything that we do, we lead victory groups, it's because of what Christ has done. And this is the true way to be able to worship Him. And so, now in this book we see here that parang twofold. As an observation, we see here in Romans chapter 12 verse 9 that there's two things that the Apostle Paul is addressing. It talks about the relationship with God, okay, and our relationship with other people. Sabi doon, love must be sincere, hate what is evil. It talks about us in our relationship with other people. And then sabi doon, keep your spiritual fervor. It talks about our relationship with God. And so you talk about spiritual fervor, you see here, sabi doon, keep your spiritual fervor, pero it started with something. Never be lacking in zeal. And so, what is zeal? I looked up the definition of zeal. Zeal is basically primarily about one's enthusiasm and one's passion for a particular object. And so, never be lacking in zeal. So there's something, if you lack this, okay, something gets affected with our spiritual fervor. And so it goes hand in hand, no? Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor. In fact, if you look at the Amplified version and the NASB version of this verse 11, sabi doon, not lagging behind in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. So technically, this is what it means in the original Koine Greek. This is what it means. With respect to the spirit, you are boiling. Yun pala ang spiritual fervor. Yun pala yung fervent in spirit. When it comes to our spiritual lives, it means that we are boiling, kumukulo. Okay? Tingnan mo nga yung katabi mo, mukha bang kumukulo yan? Okay? Mukhang kulubot. Kumukulo. Okay? Yun yung sabihin na, spiritual fervor is anything less than boiling. Yung passionate. Diba? Now when we see a passionate preaching, di ba? When we hear somebody preaching with passion, tayo doon na excited, come on. They always say, come on, let's go to the ends of the earth. Come on. Di ba? Mga flat earth dyan, may ends of the earth. Come on. Di ba? Di ba? So, we're excited. Our spirits get stirred up. It's boiling with passion. It's boiling with enthusiasm. Then we want to begin to serve God. That's what it is. In the Amplified version, then it's sinabi that be aglow, not parang wrestler, di ba? Be aglow and burning with the Spirit. I remember Pastor Jim Laffoon would say this, no? When it comes to purity, it's always a battle of passion. I believe when it comes to our hunger and our spiritual hunger, our spiritual fervor, in our spirit, in our hunger for God, it's also a battle of passion. When we are normally excited about the things that we are passionate about. Isn't it true? That we normally are excited, we have enthusiasm for the things that we are passionate about. For instance, Avengers and movies. Diba? I mean, if you're the first guy to watch that Avengers ended, you'd be passionately want to talk about it. Pero huyo ka sa akin, I'll unfriend you. But the thing is, diba, normally, when you're passionate about something, you talk about it with your friends. Okay? Kaya may mga ibang kilala ko, especially yung mga campus, talagang out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks eh. Di ba, pag lagi ng love life ang pinag-uusapan mo, yun na lang talagang lalabas kasi passion mo yun eh. Di ba? Kung palagi na lang di ba, kung sa ba nasa heart mo, lang po si Jesus, sure ako hindi si Jesus yun. Minaligtad pa, di ba? And so, when you have that, when you're burning with the Spirit, you're normally passionate about the things for God. We're normally passionate about the things that we always talk about. Some people are passionate, pero nakilala, very passionate siya sa business. Lahat na lang kaya niya, bawat kwentuhan, nagkakapi lang kayo, itong kapi na ito, pwede natin itong mabenta. Lahat na lang. He's so passionate about his craft that every time you would see him, he would always talk about it. The question is, when we talk about the things of God, are we as passionate in spoiling Avengers Endgame more than as passionate as we preach the gospel? Are we as passionate about preaching the gospel to the ends of the earth, to our classmates, our friends, even to our family members, when we talk about other things? Some of us are excited about putting up a new business. Some of them excited about academics. Totoo. Talaga. We're excited about other things, but are we as excited as we are? Are we excited to preach the gospel? I like what John Wesley said. One of our early church fathers, so to speak. Not even church father, but really our champions and heroes in the faith, especially in mission. Sabi niya, if I had 300 men who feared nothing but God, hated nothing but sin, and were determined to know nothing among men but Jesus Christ and Him crucified, I would set the world on fire. The question is, are you ready to set the world on fire? Are you ready to set Fernando on fire? Parang yung iisip niya, baka masunog to sa ender. The thing is, are we ready? Do we have that kind of passion? The same way that John Wesley said. In fact, may nagtanong kay John Wesley, sabi niya, how do you attract great crowds? He said this, I set myself on fire and the people come to see me. Question is, do we have that kind of zeal, that kind of fervor, that kind of passion, that kind of enthusiasm and love to evangelize, to preach the gospel, or even a desire and hunger for God in our life? You see, the funny thing is, you can't interchange hunger to preach the gospel with hunger for God. Those are not two mutually exclusive events. It's not a mutually exclusive. In other words, kung passionate ka mag-preach ng gospel, okay, beforehand, you're already passionate about your hunger for God, that you need more of God in your life. Now, many times, ang passion kasi, and some, you cannot push people, alam mo, dapat mag-preach ka ng gospel, dapat passionate ka. Hindi. It starts here. It starts internally. How is our passion with God? Because if we're passionate for God, the more passionate we are for evangelism as well. So when you lack zeal and fervor to preach the gospel, maybe, just maybe, or more likely, you lack zeal, passion, enthusiasm in your relationship with God. Now, two things that kill passion. I want to share this. Two things that kill passion. Number one is complacency. One of the things that kills, it's a hindrance for our passion and our, even our desire for God is to be complacent. Okay? Complacency can dampen our love, joy, and passion, and eventually anesthetize the entire Christian testimony. What is the voice of complacency? Ano ba yung boses? How do you see complacency in its earliest forms? Where does it start? How does it happen? Okay. I think one of the things we can be complacent about things when we have achieved a certain level of growth. Oh, okay na. Yung Pampanga, halos lahat ng civil na planta na natin siya. Siguro pwede na tayong tumigil. Okay na yan. Masaya na siguro si Lord. Diba? Siguro, tigil na tayo. Pagod na yung mga tao, tigilan na natin. But the Bible says that, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. Unless there is still a place here wherein the gospel is not preached, then we have not yet done our job. In fact, if somebody asks you, how big is your church? How big is your church? How big is your church? Sometimes we tell, how big is your church? They say, San Fernando, Pastor Joe, how big is San Fernando? How big is it? It's 600, no? In attendance, no? 600. Many times with pastors come together, what's your attendance already? And we often talk about, it's 600 people. Okay? But I'll tell you this, we're not big enough, you know why? Because what is the population of San Fernando? If it's 100,000, then we're not big enough. Until every one of those 100,000 people comes to the saving knowledge of God, we are not big enough. We become complacent when we become comfortable. Dati, naalala ko nung estudyante ko ako sa UP Los Baños, the church is run primarily 95-99% volunteers. I remember nung may mga standards, so to speak. Hindi ka pwedeng umakyat sa music team pag hindi ka nag-usher. Okay? Mag-usher ka muna, Dadaan ka sa soundproof para matuto ka mag-mix, magsiset up ka ng speakers, magsiset up ka ng keyboards, and then, pagkatapos mong mag-practice, tatanggalin mo yung ibababa mo, tapos service at set up, and then set down. And then, music team ka, hindi ka nag-graduate. Pag music team ka, kasama ka pa rin na magbubuhat. When we were ushers, yung nagbibigay ng envelope, naglalagay ngayon, and we put all those envelopes. In fact, the church did not have enough money, ano na dati, yung mga pinagpunitan, di ba may dalawang part yung envelope? Yung prayer request, saka yung lalagyan ng pera, envelope. Parang alien sa inyo yung envelope. Nagtatax pa. Di ba dalawang parts yun? Di ba may nakalagay doon? Di ba? So, ngayon, pag may napunit, uy, pwede pa to, walang nakalagay na prayer request, dudugso namin doon sa isang napunitan na may prayer request. Then, pa namin yun. Church, in fact, when I was handling the finances of Los Baños during that time, hiyang-hiya ako pumunta ng bako. Kasi pag pupunta ako ng bako, dala ko, yung mga coins. Kasi mga estudyante, yung PLP, lahat tayo ng offering na, so pumunta kami doon. So bibigay namin. Tapos, may isang beses, tinanong kami, sabi nung teller, may pwesto po ba kayo sa palengke? Okay, Gilbert, ayoko na, ikaw bumibigay. And so, now, nagkaroon ng konting pera, di ba? Dati, nung araw yung ganito, wala pang kino, wala pang TV. Dati nung araw, acetate. Acetate. So imagine, susulat mo doon. Tapos doon, wala pang internet, walang lyrics. So can you imagine that time, papakinggan mo by ear yung titles, yung lyrics ng song. Kaya nga tuloy, yung Unto Jesus, ang pakinig mo, Uncle Jesus, so gano'n. Please imagine those times. Kasi worship leader, Jesus Wedding, give me a G. So, imagine those things. Tapos kailangan pagka nag-acetate means di ka dapat maayos yung kamay mo, yung Q-tics mo. Kasi kailangan magalit yung human mo. Kasi ginagano mo yung lyrics ay kasunod na kasunod. Ngayon, nagkaroon ng pera, nagkaroon ng technology, nagka-internet. Okay, hindi na maka-preach ng walang kino. I'm guilty of that as well. Hindi na nagkaroon ng janitorial maintenance, hindi na naglalagay na. Nagkaroon ng mga maintenance na nagsiset up ng nagkaroon ng center, okay na nababayaran. Pero tutugtog tayo, magpa-practice dito sa worship team, late pa. Diba? And so, what happens? We become complacent when we feel a certain degree of comfortability. What things na parang isa-isa natin ginagawa before, parang seemingly, it transitions into something else. And I'll talk about that later. Complacency happens when we stop listening to people. Let me say that again. Complacency happens when we stop listening even to the complaints of the people. Talaga naman yan, troublemaker yan, sige. Nakailang church na yan, punta dito. Yan pa rin ang reklamo niya. We stop listening to people. Or worse, complacency happens when we stop listening to God. Do you remember those times na una kayo nag-lead ng victory group? Dati po nung victory group, wala pa tayong victory group material. Kanya-kanya po kaming gawaan ng victory group material. Kaya ngayon iba tuloy, yung sinishare, the secret. Mga lumalabas, di ba? Ano mga sinishare, parang naging motivational speaking and something. And so now, we're privileged kasi okay na yung theology. Di ba? Pwede na natin i-share yan. But dati, how many know, you missed those times na when you were starting out in a victory group, nag-invite ka pero walang dumating. And the only people that are there, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So, apat kayo. Not to mention, nagpakain ka pa, may lechong manok pa, pero di sila pwedeng kumain at ikaw lang, di ba? Can you imagine the first time we were able to write a victory group material and we had to pray and fast 3 days. Before they mag-fast ako, Lord, I need to hear God. Mag-share ako sa victory group mamaya. Pero ngayon, di ba? Pag download na nga lang, kasi ano ba share ko? Sige, para ito. Sige, bahala. Pag huwag ka leader, yung interpret ko, ito na mag-share. Yeah? So, we tend to stop hearing from God when we become complacent. Second is familiarity. Mark chapter 6, verse 1 to 5, let me read this to you. He went away from there and came to his hometown. His disciples followed him. And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue. And many who heard him were astonished, saying, where did this man get these things? What is the wisdom given to him? How are such mighty works done by his hands? It's not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Judas and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us? And they took offense at him. And Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and among his relatives and in his household. And here's the thing, he could do no mighty work there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. Okay, what was the scenario at this point? The people were saying, teka, si Jesus yan pinibili niya ng subuhayan, tapos yan na, nag-heal na. No? Because the people were so familiar with Jesus, this was the result. Jesus did not do mighty miracles there because of their lack of faith. Wow. What is the voice of familiarity? How do we know if we are familiar already? One of the things is this, familiarity leads us to lose our sense of awe and wonder. When you're familiar with the things of God, you begin to lose your sense of awe and wonder. What do you mean when we say this? Di ba yung God likes to imitate the childlike faith? Amen? Remember the time, every time we pray, Lord, pwede ba umulan? Uy, umulan, Lord, pwede ba umulan? Uy, umulan. Wow, Lord, talaga nag-answer ka ng prayer. Pero tumanda ka ng konti, nagka-problema, may mga nangyari. And then suddenly, may answered prayer, pero you begin, okay naman talaga. Kami na namang sasagutin ni Lord dyan kasi ganito. You begin to, to overanalyze things. And you lose your sense of awe and wonder. When was the last time that you had an answered prayer and you have that sense of honor saying, wow, God, Lord, thank you. Wow, Lord, nag-multiply ito. Wala nga akong ginawa dito eh. 20 agad yung victory ko. Wow, Lord, nag-grow yung church na nga. Lord, can you imagine going back to the time when God used to put that sense of awe and wonder in our hearts? Wow. And now, what happened was, nag-grow ng konti, dumami. Yun yung ginagawa natin, forest na naman, leadership convergence na naman, discipleship na, ano ba yun? Pwede naman tayo December na, batang aga. Pagpakailangan natin sumabay. Pero victory worship naman, sama na ako sa victory worship. Ano ba yan? Diba? Suddenly things that are, suddenly suddenly the things that bring an awe and a sense of wonder to us suddenly begin to lose its sting. We lose a childlike faith. Second is that familiarity happens when privilege becomes entitlement. Let me discount here a bit. We begin to become more familiar when the privileges that we have becomes an entitlement. Now, I'm sure we're familiar with credit cards. And a lot of credit cards nowadays have certain privileges. I remember may certain credit cards na points siya get go. May certain credit cards, points siya sa AirAsia. May certain credit cards, 3 months, 0 interest. Meron pa 3 months deferred. So parami. It is a privilege of becoming a member of that card. Okay? Now, if Metrobank or BPI or Citibank begins to say, hindi na pwedeng 3 months, 1 month deferred na lang. May magagawa ka ba? May magagawa ka ba? Wala! Kasi privilege yun eh. Binibigay sa iyo ang privilege. Privilege is something that is given, whereas entitlement is something that we demand. Privilege yan, wala naman, pero ngayon, pagka entitled ka na, what happens is you begin to demand for things that were supposed to be a privilege. How many of you know it is a privilege to lead a victory group? Privilege po yan. How many of you know it's a privilege to become a pastor is a privilege? To serve everyone is a privilege. To plant a church is a privilege. To become a part of the music team is a privilege. To become an usher is a privilege. To become a member of the kids ministry is a privilege. is privilege. It is a privilege to serve. Now, what happens when we become familiar with those privileges? We begin to demand things. Excuse me, dito rin group leader ako dito. Kailangan yung parking, dapat ako yung una. Excuse me, leader ako dito sa church na to. Dapat priority kami doon sa discipleship 20-something. Excuse me, kids church teacher ako. Yung mga bata nagugutom. Baka pwede dapat ako may pagkain din. So, I remember, one of our Metro Manila churches started in a mall. And since wala pa tayong facility, yung kids church natin were divided into 4 restaurants. Di ba may 4 groups tayo? Merong yung isang grupo, yung toddler sa Chowking, yung iba sa Jollibee, yung iba sa McDonald's, yung iba sa KFC. No? So ngayon, siyempre, yung mga bata, yung mga toddlers, consumable yung bayad. So, kumbaga, mag-order ka lang 8,000 worth of French fries. Saan sa bagan? Yung food, di ba? KFC, di ba? Yung crispy delicious, bucket meal, kasha sa bibig. So, di ba, lahat yung kinuhain ng bata yun eh. So, sino kakain nun? Volunteers. Now, what happened? Nagkaroon na ng center, tinanggal na sa yung kids church and restaurant, napunta na sa regular center na walang ino-offer na KFC, McDonald's, Jollibee. Ang tanong ng volunteer, ba't walang pagkain? Mga kapatid, nangyayari po ito. And if we're not careful, what happens is it dampens your ability to be able to be more hungry to serve people. It not only dampens, it takes away the joy, and it becomes a spirit of entitlement. I deserve this. The moment we say, I deserve this, we are veering away from the gospel. Do you know that the gospel is all about, I don't deserve this? Every time we say, I deserve to be here, I deserve it, that is contrary to what the gospel message is. But every time we say, Lord, I don't deserve this, but thank you for this anyway. That is what the gospel, that is what grace is. Very quickly, how do we battle this? How do we battle complacency? We battle it with consistency. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30. I love the Message translation. Sabi na, are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the enforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Ganda na sinabi dito, no? This is talking about my yoke is easy and my burden is light. God is saying, learn the enforced rhythms of grace. You battle or fight complacency when you are consistent in different areas in your life. In other words, when you begin to develop a habit, when you begin to develop what we call a rhythm. Question, do we have a rhythm in terms of our worship? How often do we worship? Is it only on Sundays? How often do we do it? How do we read the Word? How often do we read the Word? How often do we come in solitude before God and talk to God? Okay? How often do we have a rhythm of tithing? Do we have a rhythm of generosity? In fact, I have a pastor friend of mine, yung budget nila mag-asawa, they have what they call a benevolence fund. Imagine nyo, ang alam ko church na yung may benevolence fund, pero yung couple na to, itong pastor couple na to, meron silang benevolence fund. They're so generous that nagulat sila yung benevolence fund nila, kakatulong nila, the more na naglalabas sila ng pera, tumutulong sa ibang tao, the more na dumadami yung fund nila na yun. And it happened because they had a rhythm. Why are people strong and well-founded on the Word? Because they have an enforced rhythm of grace to be able to read God's Word. Okay? Every day, do we have that set time? Now, oftentimes we talk about hearing from God, or I'm so hungry for you, but the point is, do you have an appointment with God? You see, God is everywhere. God wants to speak to you. But the point is, are you willing to have an appointment with Him so that He will meet with you? If we don't set the time of appointment, then we begin to not have consistency, and later on it becomes complacency. And I'm not talking about discipline here. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about consistency, an established rhythm. Think about your life now. Sana may application na later na. I have my paper, and then you write down every week, how often do I worship? How often do I read the Word of God? Hindi yung 4 chapters kasi required sa Leadership 113. Okay? How often do I do solitude? Or in other words, yung ako lang, mahirap mag-solitude pagka may mumahawang bata. Mahirap mag-solitude pag may nagpapagawa ng assignment. Mahirap mag-solitude pagka inutusan ka ng misis mong bumili ng suka. Mahirap mag-solitude pagka gano'n. But do you have a set time that you're alone with God? Do you have a set time wherein you begin to meet with God? I remember Jesus in Mark chapter 1, verse 32-30, he had a busy schedule. So that evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick and oppressed by demons. And the whole city was gathered at the door. And he healed many. This is Jesus who healed very many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. And rising early in the morning, while it was dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. Can you imagine Jesus was so busy, and yet he was never in a hurry? Can you imagine Jesus had a lot of things to do, and yet he rose up early in the morning, while it was still dark, he set an appointment, he departed, and he disengaged himself from the world that he was living in, and there, what did he do? He spent time with the Father. Jesus always found time for God. Jesus never made time for God. Have you heard the phrase na, I'm going to spend time with this person. I'm going to make time for this person. I'm going to schedule a time for this person. Imagine Jesus, He never said that, ito lang yung schedule kay God na kailangan pili. No, it was a rhythm for Him. You know why it was a rhythm for Him? Because of the relationship that He has. How many of you would be flattered if your child would come to you and say, pwede mo mag-set ng appointment mo pa para hingi ako ng 10,000 na allowance? Diba? Pwede ka naman dumiretso eh. You know what? Jesus was able to have this kind of rhythm because He understands na yung oras niya completely belongs to the Father. Jesus was never in a hurry. Many of us are busy. We cannot establish a rhythm. Why? Because we're always in a hurry. I like what Dallas Willard said. He said, hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Are we always in that place? All of us are busy, but are we, lagi ba naghahabol ng check-in, diba? Yan, team song ni Adele. Chasing payments, not chasing payments. But you're always in a hurry, always in a hurry, nagmamadali. Do we have a rhythm of a Sabbath? Okay. Alam ko sa pastor lang po ito, pero I hope tayo as leaders meron tayong rhythm with the Sabbath. Do you know that rest is faith? Rest is faith. Do you know that you're more productive when you're resting more than you're working? Let me give you an example. How many of you are familiar with the year of Jubilee? Year of Jubilee. Yeah. Di ba, ang Israelites, di ba, they have a year of Jubilee wherein makakancel lahat. Okay? And pag nagtatrabaho sila, first 6 years, trabaho. Pagdating doon sa 7th year, anong gagawin? Pagpapahingahin yung land. Can you imagine, on the 7th year, saan ka kukuha ng pagkain kung pagpapahingahin yung land? Can you imagine, on the 6th year, ganito gagawin yung magtatanim. On the 6th year, kailangan yung production niya triple. Bakit triple? Kasi kailangan niya mag-produce ng crops for the 6th year. Okay?